CrossroadsToday.com, Victoria reaches 142 hours under a boil water notice. What's being done to fix it and prevent the next one?
And mattresses and couches pile up in a Victoria neighborhood. The health hazard residents face.
Plus, for the first time in years, floodgates open at Buchanan Dam. How this could impact lake levels and communities downstream.
We'll take a look at the lake levels coming up in just a few minutes, but also the big news, we've got some tropical activity right off of Florida. Will it develop? We'll look at that and talk about it coming up in a moment.
Four former Victoria Generals made it over to the MLB. I'll tell you all their names later on.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shauna Curry.
And I'm Trenton Whiting, filling in for Don Brubaker.
142 hours into the boil water notice, City of Victoria officials are waiting on bacteria test results to determine if the notice can be lifted. This all started July 7th when low chlorine levels were found near John Stockbauer and Miori Lane. The next day, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality began investigating. A citywide boil water notice went out on July 9th after a localized flush failed to raise chlorine levels. Crews worked through the night on July 10th to flush the system and boost chlorine. From July 11th through the 13th, officials held daily press conferences with updates and announced a $10 credit for utility accounts.
And at tonight's Victoria City Council meeting, Mayor Dwayne Crocker called the boil water notice a breach of public trust and unacceptable. He announced the formation of a city council committee, including Dr. Andrew Young and Jan Scott, to investigate the root cause and ensure it never happens again. The mayor said no question will go unasked and emphasized the need for changes to prevent a repeat. City Manager Jesus Garza took full responsibility for the incident. He said the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality first got involved last Tuesday with that localized flush, and after that effort failed, the boil water notice was issued. Yesterday, chlorine levels returned to safe levels, but the notice remains in place until bacteria test results confirm the water is safe to drink. So far, no other issues have been found.
And that is being discussed again right now as
Absolutely.
we speak in the city council meeting. And while we don't know the exact cause yet, that will be coming out here in the coming days and weeks, we are asking our viewers, who do you hold responsible for the water boil issue in Victoria? Is it the director of water or public works? Is it the mayor, the city manager? Is it due to environmental factors, or is there not a person responsible? Accidents happen. Right. We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And right now, 63% are saying the director of the water supply,
right.
public works, essentially, is the person that they're holding responsible
right.
at this point. So we'll see how this, comes out as the investigation goes on.
Absolutely. Still waiting on that pending investigation that Mayor Crocker spoke on. So we'll have to see the results. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Victoria neighborhood is dealing with illegal dumping. A 25 News Now viewer sent us photos of a huge pile of mattresses, couches, and other household items spilling out of dumpsters near the Victoria Housing Authority apartments around Depot, Cameron, and 2nd Streets. Not only is it an eyesore, it's also a health hazard. City officials say if you spot illegal dumping, to report it through the Victoria Texas 311 app. You can include photos and the report will be sent straight to the right department. They did not say whether there have been reports made for this location, but depending on how much is dumped, charges can range from a Class C misdemeanor to a state jail felony.
We have new details about the timeline of alerts and evacuations ahead of the historic and deadly flooding in Central Texas. The family of Camp Mystic's co-director, Dick Eastland, says they believe that he received the National Weather Service alert on his phone warning of, quote, life-threatening flash flooding at 1:14 a.m.
Yeah, that's about an hour before he began evacuating the young campers from the flood-prone site. Ivan Rodriguez reports from Kerrville.
We're getting a better picture of the hours before the catastrophic flooding at Camp Mystic. Camp Mystic co-director Richard Eastland first received an alert on his phone around 1:14 in the morning, but it did not include an evacuation order. A family spokesperson tells us that Eastland started to assess the area immediately and contacted family by walkie-talkie. The relocation of campers to a recreation hall began around 2 to 2:30 in the morning, but a family spokesperson tells us, quote, there was no information available concerning the magnitude of what was coming. It wasn't until 4:30 in the morning that the National Weather Service issued a more dire warning, asking people to seek higher ground. Eastland died while trying to save those young girls who were staying at a cabin a little closer to the Guadalupe River. That cabin housed some of the camp's youngest girls. Now, when it comes to the search and recovery efforts, the Kirk County Sheriff says that he believes it'll keep going strong for the next month to 2 months, possibly even 6 months, and their crews are still facing a very challenging terrain, a lot of debris and gravel still at the base of the Guadalupe River. The United Cajun Navy even sharing a picture of what appeared to be a vehicle buried underground at the base of the river, giving us an idea of some of the challenges they're facing. In Kerrville, Texas, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
State Representative District 30 A.J. Louderback was appointed today to the House Select Committee on Disaster Preparedness and Flooding. The Select Committee will have jurisdiction over state policy for natural disaster mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. The first hearing will take place with the Senate Select Committee at the Capitol on July 23rd. The second hearing will take place the following week in Kerrville to give residents, first responders, and local officials to have an opportunity to have their voices heard. The Senate's Select Committee includes State Senator District 18 Lois Kolkhorst. APAWS Chicago is taking in cats and dogs from shelters in the Hill Country that were affected by the deadly flooding there. By taking in these animals, PAWS said it allows the shelters in the flood-affected areas to make rooms for animals displaced by the disaster and focus on reuniting families with their beloved pets. PAWS picked up its first flight of 22 dogs and puppies today. The dogs are receiving medical care, vaccinations, and any other additional attention before they are made available for fostering and adoption. Another flight of dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens will arrive from Austin Wednesday night.
As of July 14th, more than 3,000 flash flood warnings have been issued this year by the National Weather Service. That's the highest number that has been issued through the same period since 1986, which is when those warnings started being tallied. Roughly 170 warnings were issued on Sunday and Monday alone. Officials with the National Weather Service also say flash flood emergencies, which are considered life-threatening, are noticeably higher this year compared to 2024.
And for the first time since 2019, the Buchanan Dam floodgates are open. Officials confirmed that at least 2 floodgates at Buchanan Dam were opened to avoid water from cresting the spillway. Lake Buchanan now stands at 96% full. This was done to prevent flooding in nearby areas. The water will eventually make its way to Lake Travis, which has recently returned to its average level for the first time in 4 years. Recreational boating on Lake Travis is banned due to the floods. It's definitely good news for Texas especially, but we might be getting a break from the rain soon and things might be drying out here shortly.
It's starting to feel like the middle of July,
Yeah.
at least here in the Crossroads.
Absolutely.
So let's go to Mac Perez for a first look at the forecast.
Yes, it's definitely going to be feeling like mid-July. We are looking for a drying trend. As a matter of fact, we got more of that Saharan dust, and we also are looking for higher pressures to build. As you can see, nothing happened in terms of precipitation in our neighborhood, but look at this. In all places, it's raining again throughout the Hill Country. They're hopefully going to be getting a break, and we'll be also looking at the tropics coming up in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton requested death row inmate Robert Roberson to be executed on October 16th. A hearing is set for 10 a.m. on Wednesday in the 3rd District Court in Palestine. Smith County District Judge Austin Reeve Jackson will decide whether to proceed with Paxton's request. Roberson was convicted of capital murder in 2003 for the death of his 2-year-old daughter, who is diagnosed with shaken baby syndrome. Roberson faced an October execution date last year, but state lawmakers managed to force a delay. Paxton's office took over the case in June.
Governor Greg Abbott today ceremoniously signed 2 bills to boost Texas's border security efforts with the federal government. The bills establish the Homeland Security Division within the Texas Department of Public Safety. After the bill signing ceremony, the governor took part in a chat with U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan. The chat, moderated by Goliad County Sheriff Roy Boyd, centered on disaster response and Texas's border security operations. The governor was joined during the bill signing ceremony by State Representative A.J. Louderback.
Governor Greg Abbott has acknowledged DOJ concerns that some districts were drawn, quote, along strict racial lines. Critics say it's a political ploy. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit crossroadstoday.com.
And to get your news 24 hours a day, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, states take more control of education after a Supreme Court ruling. What this means for schools and students.
And half of Americans are unsatisfied with the information released about the Jeffrey Epstein case, what the Trump administration says about it, and the questions that remain.
Behind closed doors, too many voices go unheard. In Breaking the Silence, domestic violence in the Crossroads.
People who are going through this know that they are not alone and that they can get the help they need and the help that they deserve, that they don't need to be scared. There is people that care about them.
Amaya Norman brings their stories to light and shows how our community is stepping up to help. A 25 News Now Extra you can't afford to miss.
House committee hearing on anti-Semitism was disrupted by protesters today. The House Education and Workforce Committee was holding the hearing in higher education. Among those testifying were principals and chancellors from the Department of Education, UC Berkeley, the City University of New York, and Georgetown University. However, there were several instances where the hearing was paused due to outbursts from what appeared to be pro-Palestinian protesters. At least 4 people were escorted out for being disruptive. The Supreme Court has cleared the way for the Trump administration to dismantle the Department of Education. Education advocates warn the president's plan will severely impact students in low-income communities and those with disabilities. It also promises to gut the department's workforce.
ABC's Christiane Cordero has the details from Washington.
It was a promise he made on the campaign trail.
Your state is going to control your children's education.
Now, President Trump's plan for the Department of Education, tested and passed through the Supreme Court, can be put into action. States already administer their schools' curriculum and, along with local governments, are responsible for most of the funding in public schools. The federal Department of Education oversees billions of dollars that largely go to students in low-income communities and those with disabilities. It also enforces civil rights laws within school systems. And within the department itself, the layoffs of more than 1,000 workers paused by a lower court are now able to proceed.
We want, as you know, we want to bring education back to the states, take the federal government out of it.
The emergency Supreme Court decision gave no majority opinion, but Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a dissent backed by the court's 2 other liberal justices. In it, she argues the unconstitutionality of letting the president decide the fate of a department created by Congress, writing, "The majority is either willfully blind to the implications of its ruling or naive, but either way, the threat to our Constitution's separation of powers is grave." Education advocates warn the cuts will leave vulnerable students without critical services, from special education to financial aid. The administration has suggested some of the DOE's core functions, like federal student loans, could be taken over by other agencies, like the Treasury Department. Education Secretary Linda McMahon celebrating the Supreme Court's decision.
I'm just incredibly pleased that the authority was reinstated where it should be. This lifts the handcuffs off of what we've been trying to do.
This comes as 24 states sue the Trump administration for withholding $6 billion in Congress-allocated funding. The grants had bipartisan approval, but are on hold because the administration wants to review where the money will go. The states are asking a federal judge to intervene. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
The Kremlin says Donald Trump's announcements on arms and sanctions are, quote, very serious. And even former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev dismissed the tariff threat as theatrics. In a meeting with NATO Secretary General Monday, the U.S. president said his country will sell arms to NATO members to give to Ukraine. He also threatened tariffs on Russia if a peace deal is not reached within 50 days.
A new CNN poll shows half of Americans say they're dissatisfied with the amount of information the Trump administration has released about the Jeffrey Epstein case. The poll was taken just days after the Trump Justice Department released a memo saying there is no evidence Epstein kept a client list or was murdered. Epstein was a disgraced financier and convicted sex offender who died in 2019 while awaiting his federal trial. His death was ruled a suicide. On the campaign trail, Trump said he'd consider releasing more government files on the case. Many Trump supporters hoped that would implicate other high-profile figures or undercut the notion that Epstein killed himself. The controversial Florida detention facility, Alligator Alcatraz, has been grabbing headlines since it opened earlier this month. Democrats say conditions in the facility meant to house migrants are, quote, inhumane. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the center is, quote, safe and secure.
Critics say that's not so, and to make it worse, they say some of the people being detained there don't belong there. Glenna Milberg has the details.
More portable air conditioners, possibly signs of the promised expansion. Though the focus is on the more than 700 detainees reported here now.
He's married to a United States citizen. He has no crimes, never been arrested.
She is one of several immigration attorneys whose clients were picked up and brought here who do not fit the profile of criminal deportable alien.
The idea that the worst of the worst is in there is not true.
Lawmakers given a tour Saturday were told what the governor and President Trump insist: the worst criminals here, already through the process, all holding removal papers.
What we were told is that all these individuals there were fully adjudicated detainees and that they were ready for deportation at this moment.
This attorney's client, now held in Everglades detention, requested asylum when he arrived a few years ago and is in that process. Legal, pending, no removal order, though there is also no workable process for her to meet with her client.
I would imagine that there would be some type of plan in place for this to happen. Now they're going to put themselves, the detention center, in a situation where they are violating really rights of people who need to have access to an attorney.
The email given to attorneys to schedule access came back as rejected.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're looking at 91 degrees right about now. It feels like 99. The heat and the humidity will be going up, and for the next few days, we're probably not going to see much in terms of rainfall. 93 was our official high, right off the mark of 94, which is our average. We've been as warm as 103. There was dry weather here in the Crossroads, but it's still raining in West Texas. We'll take a look at that coming up in a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. For the next few days, our rain chance really is dropping down to almost zero. Today, we had hardly a sprinkle around the area. There, you can see the crossroads right about there. But while we're sort of enjoying the weather, it is anything but peaceful along the western states. Now, here's San Antonio. You can see the hill country, western areas. They got probably 2 to 3 inches of rain again today on top of everything that's been happening there since July the 4th. Now, there is a system here that's been circulating. That system seems to be moving northbound and maybe falling apart. So they're actually looking for drier weather to start arriving in the next few days. What's also happening is that high pressure is now building out over our area, and that's going to sort of dry us out for a bit after all that stuff that we've been through. There you see crossroads, San Antonio, Austin, and flash flood watches continue for much of the hill country, and of course the river warnings. This would be the Frio River going south down out of Uvalde area, and they're going to be looking at rivers rising as well. But from all the bad news, right, we can console ourselves with the fact that a lot of this water is falling exactly where we need it, and we're being able to capture it. This is the rainfall that fell today. Obviously nothing here, but in eastern areas, you can see the blues. That's a 2 and 3 inch range, and that's pretty good. There's I-10, so it's totally hill country, right on top of Hunt and Ingram and those areas, all the way down to Uvalde, where they got additional heavy rain today. Now, while we do have the flash flood watch that continues for much of that area, things are going to be a little bit different for the next couple of days. This rain activity should be settling down. All of these counties hopefully will get a little bit of a break. But let me show you the lake levels in the difference between in 1 month, okay? Lake Buchanan, which is north of Austin, is now at 97%, came up from 67% a month ago, okay? Canyon Lake, which is of course much closer to us, it's up there in the New Braunfels area, it's at 64% now, came up from 46% a month ago. Lake Amistad, which is along the Rio Grande over in Del Rio, has come up a little bit from 33% up from 28%, but not all the water has reached it yet, so the water is still draining and rolling into that area. And Lake Travis, which is west part of Austin, is up to 82%, up from 49, almost doubled in a month. This is great news because it's going into the lakes that we need them. Obviously, it's a sad way of getting to that kind of level. It could have just, rained a couple of days. Meanwhile, in the tropics, we have something happening. This is potentially a tropical storm. This is already invest, and by tomorrow, it should become possibly a depression. The thing is that it's right over Florida. It's right over land, so it's not getting a lot of strength to move forward. Now, what are all these lines? Every one of these lines is a different computer model and its prediction as to where it's going to go. So we call it the spaghetti model, for obvious reasons. And if they're all in agreement as to where it's going, then we're in good shape. Most of them say it'll be raining heavily along the Gulf Coast before it finally turns somewhere over Louisiana. Hopefully that will stay on track. So we're looking at forecast tomorrow in the Port Lavaca area, looking for a high of about 94 with more sunshine. And in Cuero, you're getting up to about 95 with lots of sunshine. So yeah, it's going to be sunny, hot, and rather steamy, but don't expect any shower activity. In the mid-90s and then upper 90s and then 97 by the time we get to Sunday. So yeah, we're going to be feeling the heat as well. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone, and we can reach you with any kind of severe weather bulletin you need as they become necessary. We'll toss it back to the anchors over there.
All right, thank you, Mac. Now we send it over to Max Williams for sports, and a big celebration is now on the calendar.
Yes, it is, Shauna, because in a couple weeks, the Ganado Maidens are ready to celebrate their first ever state softball title. I'll give you just all the details coming up in sports. yesterday, if you weren't up for our 10 p.m. newscast, I highlighted UHV baseball pitcher Brady Parker being drafted by the Colorado Rockies in the 12th round, the MLB draft. And Parker is a Victoria native. He played there at Victoria East, the Generals there from 2022 to 2023, and then was at UHV there for all 4 years for college. Now looks to take his talents to the next level. And then later tonight, 25 News Now Sports 10 p.m., I'll have more of a deep dive about how this moment felt there for Parker. And we'll also hear from head coach Jonathan Stavino about how Parker feels going to the big leagues. Now, staying there for local baseball town, it wasn't just Parker, right? We had 4 former Victoria Generals players also get drafted to the MLB draft. First with Cameron Nickens being selected there by the St. Louis Cardinals there in the 17th round. And then Braylon Owens, as you see there right in that video, in the 10th round of the Milwaukee Brewers. Then Derek Serta there in the 17th round went to the Chicago White Sox. And then Zach Rose there in the 7th round of the Atlanta Braves. So just congrats to all these players, just like Parker there, getting drafted to the MLB draft. Over to some high school softball where the Ganado Maidens their past season won their first ever 2A Division I state title. Well, they're going to celebrate. They have the chance to celebrate now because on Sunday, August 3rd, they're going to have a parade downtown starting there at 7 p.m. with the ceremony starting at 7:30 p.m. The parade route is just going to be like football's one. There on the 3rd. It'll start there again on 3rd Street at West Menifee Street, and then it'll end at Maiden Stadium there. So be ready for the parade, as this will be the first time for the softball team celebrating that state title. Over to Little League Baseball, where Victoria Northeast is ready to start regional play there this Friday night. They start action there at 8 p.m. in Seguin, where they'll play the winner of Texas West or Arkansas. Northeast looking to get back that production there from Parker Barrows, Caden Krawitz, and Andrew Alvarado, who brought the kind of the juice there up there in the plate. Looking to see if they can reach the World Series there back-to-back years in South Carolina, which will be held in a few weeks. Now the Generals, they're going to be back in action there versus the Brazos Valley Bombers. That's going to be there in College Station. Both of these teams are top there of the Texas Division standings, and it'll be a crucial 2-game development there. The first pitch will be at 7:05 p.m. And again, they'll also play on the road tomorrow for the Generals too, there on Wednesday. And then finally there in just 30 minutes down, the MLB All-Star Game will be held there in Atlanta. And starting pitchers tonight for the NL will be Paul Skeens, and then for the AL will be Tarek Skubal. So for that played for the Detroit Tigers. Now 3 Astros players are playing there for the AL side, and Jeremy Pena, Isaac Paredes, and Josh Hader. Then for the Rangers, you're going to have pitcher Jacob deGrom there will be a part of the All-Star Game, which again will start in 30 minutes. And that's going to do it here in sports. Trent and Shauna, back to you.
All right, thank you, Max. So we're back in a moment, but first, a big move today for 4 astronauts at the International Space Station.
Four members from the Axion 4 mission to the International Space Station landed on Earth Monday. The Dragon spacecraft safely splashed off the coast of San Diego. After spending 18 days at the ISS, the AX-4 crew left for Earth on June 14th. All 4 astronauts will now undergo a 7-day rehabilitation program to help them adapt back to Earth's gravity.
That's crazy.
It's customary for crews returning from the International Space Station.
Just getting
Welcome
back.
home.
Yeah, 18 days in space. That's wild.
Yeah, getting back your footing, like I said, on Earth, and yeah.
Your sea legs.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Well, this week may be a good day to head out to the water and get some sea legs.
This is a good week to get, I think we should have 4th of July all over again.
Sure, let's do it.
This is going to be a lot nicer this week. And this weekend it's going to be very sunny. We're looking at kind of the old-fashioned summer for our weather in July here, with no rain chance, warm and humid, getting up into the upper 90s by the time we get to the weekend.
Oh, real nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
We'll see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 10.